Welcome to the Irish Farmers Journal Weekly Podcast.
Hello and welcome to this week's podcast. I'm Hannah Quinn-Mulligan, news correspondent with the Irish Farmers Journal. Coming up on the show this week, impassioned speeches on both sides of the great agri-food debate between CIT and UCD, but there could only ever be one winner.
Our team will not stand here listening to the opposition tell us that we are not working towards our responsibilities and commitments in terms of the environment.
And Adam Woods visits Tullamore Farm to discuss what you should look for when buying a bull.
Number one thing is look at the bull, look at his feet, look at his muscle, look at his length, look at his head, look at his everything about him before you actually look at paper.
The visual aspect of any animal is the priority for me, and it should be for most people.
I can think of one very important piece of anatomy Adam forgot to list there. But first, our correspondent Amy Ford was at the penultimate Common Agricultural Policy, or CAP, meeting in Athlone on Tuesday night. CAP makes up about 40% of the average EU farmer's annual income, so farm organisations across Europe are all concerned about the next budget in 2020. John Hanley, chair of Roscommon IFA, told Amy what he wanted to see in the next CAP budget.
Yeah, well, in this area in Roscommon, we're talking about the most vulnerable sectors, which are the suckler and sheep sectors, right? And I mentioned it in there that the sheep welfare scheme is a workable scheme that has been put together, a simple scheme without bureaucracy, and we want the same thing with the suckler scheme, because we see the beef data and genomics programme, which has about 22,000 farmers out of 44,000, so about 50% of the farmers went into that because it's full of red tape. And another thing, we want a CAP that is fit for purpose going into the future. And active farmers, I said it tonight, that as primary producers of health, I never forget that, and the CAP was set out as a fair standard of living for the cheap food policy, and we can never forget that, and as those primary producers we have to be looked after in the future.
Vincent, Roddy, Director of Organisation with the INHFA in Athlone tonight. Vincent, what does the INHFA want from the next CAP?
Well, I suppose the first thing we want a fair distribution, which obviously is going to be contentious. I know some farmers and some organisations probably won't want that. But apart from, obviously we can go into all of that, but there are other specifics that we would be looking at. One is we want a fair inspection regime, whatever is put in place afterwards, because what has presently been in place has caused problems for farmers. There's no doubt about that. And as I've often said myself before, most farmers would be more afraid of seeing the Department of Agriculture inspector than they would a member of Garda Síochána arriving. So that fear has to be taken out of it. And we do see across the board in Northern Ireland there is a different approach towards inspections where they work with the farmers rather than come out and penalise the farmer. So I think whatever goes forward, and I'd hope all organisations would agree with us in this, that whatever way we go forward, that has to be part of it. We also need to ensure that the Charter of Rights is properly adhered to. The Department of Agriculture are getting a free rein with that. There is a lot of good things in the Charter of Rights, but unfortunately it's not put forward or it's not brought forward by the Department of Agriculture themselves. So we have requested that the Charter of Rights would form part of the terms and conditions of every scheme, and it would at least put the boot on the other foot, and it would ensure that farmers get a fair crack on that. We have also looked at the appeal system. It has been a big issue as regards inspections. There is proposals to reform the appeals office. Currently we don't believe they go far enough, because they're going to still see the appeals office inside the Department of Agriculture, and if it is going to be independent, it should sit outside of the Department of Agriculture. Coming back, Amy, to the redistribution or to where we go with the CAP going forward, one of the big issues for us is the issue of designated land. A lot of farmers have seen over the last number of years land, SSC, SPA land, that effectively has been sterilised. There's 39 actions requiring consent that these farmers have to take on board. For example, ourselves, we know, like when we had to, on our own farm, we had to get planning permission to put up a fence. That did cost us €4,000 just for the permission alone. Other farmers, though, we are seeing there's actions if they want to increase stock numbers, they have to get permission. If they have to if they significantly reduce stock numbers, they get permission. If they want to change the type of stock, they have to get permission. If they want to put out fertiliser, farm manure, slurry or anything like that, they have to get permission. And obviously digging or anything like that, road drainage or anything like that, will require not just permission, but it will require full planning permission as well. So there's clearly a burden for farmers in designated land that will have to be addressed in the new CAP. Now beyond that, we are looking at the idea of front-loading payments. I think for smaller farmers that has to be, with smaller holdings, that has to be a factor. We have to look as well at the overall payments on CAP. Currently it's 150,000. We need to be bringing that down, and well down. And obviously if we did bring it down to 50,000, it would free up 50 million. If we brought it down to 35,000, it would free up 100 million for redistribution. So that's the kind of that's where we're looking at. We are finalising some of our proposals on that, and we'll see where it goes from there.
We hope that you're enjoying this Irish Farmers Journal podcast. Find out more at farmersjournal.ie.
There was fierce competition between UCD and CIT at the Great Agri-Food Debate last week. However, there could only ever be one winner. Our correspondent Thomas Hubert was at the event, and I'll let him reveal the winner.
Our team will not stand here listening to the opposition tell us that we are not working towards our responsibilities and commitments in terms of the environment. It is obvious, no matter where you look. And our motion states Ireland. That's our people. It's our children, our legislators. It is who we are to take our commitments and our responsibilities seriously. We as a country have never backed down from our responsibility. We as a nation have never backed down from our commitments. And we as the proposition are not backing down today. I urge you to propose. Thank you.
Hello, this is Thomas Hubert, news correspondent with the Irish Farmers Journal. I'm here with David O'Heaney, who took part in the Great Agri-Food Debate and won it with UCD in Waterford today. David, how did it go? Why do you think you were on top today with your team?
Yeah, to be honest, CIT put up a serious battle to us there in the final, and with a very tough semi-final indeed against DKIT as well. So we didn't win it hands down by no means. The semi-final was a photo finish as far as I know, and the final was close as well.
What are the topics you discussed throughout the various debates you had today?
Yeah, so in the semi-final we were proposing that the Common Agricultural Policy is good value for money. So we were singing all its merits, such as from an environmental point of view, from food self-sufficiency, from the importance of the CAP to rural Ireland. And then in the final, we were also proposing the motion that Ireland takes its environmental responsibilities and commitments seriously. So we were in favour of the likes of recent developments in our public transport and the mentality of the Irish people that they want to make a change, they are making the effort. So we highlighted them today, we hope.
And I suppose in both cases you're maybe on the side of the argument that you as farming students and farmers would support. Does that make things easier? Yeah, well, even in we had heats above in UCD to see who even qualified to get on our team. And on them heats I actually opposed both the motions. So there are fair arguments you can make against the likes of the CAP and our mentality towards the environment. But it's all just about how you communicate it on the day. And you obviously did it well today. Congratulations, David. Well done.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
I'm here with Avril O'Driscoll of Cork IT, taking part in the final of the Agri-Food Debate here in Waterford IT. Avril, how did it go for you? You made it through the final, just not quite to the final trophy, but nearly there.
Yeah, well, look, we gave it our all anyway. We're coming from a background of nutrition. All of me and my teammates actually are studying nutrition and health science, so we're second and third year students. So it was totally stepping outside of our comfort zone, but we gave it our all. And sure, look, fair play to UCD. 2 years in a row now, Una Sennett, an outstanding speaker. They're all outstanding speakers. So look, we can't complain. We did our best, and well done to UCD.
You got an award yourself, Best Speaker, in one of the debates today, and your team is taking part for the first time, I think. So what about the process, taking part in the whole preparation, and what did you learn, and what do you make of it now?
Yeah, I learned so much because we had 3 topics to cover, between Brexit and as well just Ireland takes its environmental and responsibilities and commitments seriously, and consumer behaviour as well. So obviously we knew a little bit about these topics, but researching, you're diving into the extremes of it. So we learned so much about each topic, important topics for the future, for our generation.
Okay, Avril, thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
The Irish Farmers Journal Weekly Podcast.
Avril O'Driscoll there, finishing that report. Stay tuned, because still to come, we hear a few tips on how to buy a bull.
Irish parents can spend up to €250,000 on their children. For more in this week's Farmers Journal, here's Mairead Lavery.
It's costly to rear your children, but the costs don't have to be so high. We've essential money-saving tips for parents. We also interview Ireland's CJ Stander on taking on Wales and why farming is the perfect training for life and rugby.
And we reveal how tighter rules on cattle movements will hit all farmers. Inside this week's Irish Farmers Journal, on sale today.
Now, as a humble Hereford breeder, the allure of Charolais breeding remains something of a mystery. However, when it comes to buying a bull, we'd all be looking for similar things. Our beef expert Adam Woods was at a Charolais sale in Tullamore Mart and discussed a few important parts to look out for when buying a bull.
Number one thing is look at the bull, look at his feet, look at his muscle, look at his length, look at his head, look at his everything about him before you actually look at paper.
Well, the visual aspect of any animal is the priority for me, and it should be for most people. Like, I've known people buying bulls from a book and they go home and it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
You know, you look for his locomotion, you look for his quality. The best genetics for the traditional Charolais breed are in France. There's lovely softness to the cattle, there's femininity in their females, nice heads. Now, our market here now, unfortunately, are more geared towards commercial men, and the cattle have become smaller, more rounded, and it's more for the suckler man, which is quite important as well. He is our bread and butter. This calf is actually quite good terminally on paper. Yeah. He's 5-star across the board terminally, but he's also an easy calving figure of 7.4, so he's ideal for the suckler
Which
man.
is actually below average for the Charolais breed.
I think so, Adam. Yeah. Maternally now he could do it more stars, but overall he's a good calf, a complete pack.
What does he buy?
He's by Gold Star Echo,
which is a very popular sire at the moment in Charolais circles.
Very popular sire, CF52 dam and Texan G bred. And then you have on the other side his grandmother who bred Nevers, who is marketed by the Irish Charolais Society. So excited about this calf. I have a couple of more embryos at home, equally as good born. So I hope he does well inside.
There's a huge cost to bringing these guys. I think the Farmers Journal showed last year that it's upwards of 23 or 2400 to get this bull to the day, to this sale. That in terms of costs of production of a pedigree animal, what are you hoping for here today?
What have to be clearing 3,000 to clear an embryo calf. You would need that, Adam, to get out with an embryo calf. But I would like a little bit more. I hope to get into another one, but we'll have to see how it goes in there. Sometimes it's up and down. You can come here a nice young calf and they want an older bull, or vice versa. It depends on the day. But seems to be a good trade up there today for sure.
And the red rosette should help him when he goes into the sales ring.
The red rosette hopefully will help him, but not always. It's about the figures now. It's all about a book. Sometimes I wonder, should we, be nearly going to these shows at all, because the men are coming and they're buying out of the book.
4-1, set down here. 4-1.
And that's it for this week. Thanks for listening, and you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or even Snapchat to keep up to date with all the farm news. We even have an app that you can download for free. The sound engineer this week was Ferdia Mooney, and I'm Hannah Quinn Mulligan.
The Irish Farmers Journal podcast, online at farmersjournal.ie and on iTunes every Thursday.